All right, and we are live. So hello, happy Friday. My name is Julie Hirschberg, owner and founder of Re+active Therapy and Wellness here in the Los Angeles area, coming to you live on our Facebook page today to chat about all the cool things that we're learning. I feel so lucky. I feel especially lucky to be a part of our Brain Bites community. And actually last night, I didn't even get to attend our live Brain Bites session because it was my daughter's first high school volleyball game. And one of the great things about our community is that everything is recorded. So I actually grabbed the recording because this was like a day I did not want to miss, which is pretty much every time in Brain Bites. It's always an interesting discussion and group problem solving for patient cases and all of that stuff. So we did a discussion last night on vestibular and autonomic interactions, and I'm actually streaming here through our Zoom so I can share a couple of slides from that because it was phenomenal. So by the way, if you haven't heard of Brain Bites is a membership community for physical therapists and occupational therapists who have a passion for complex neurological care and are really committed to optimizing outcomes for some of the most challenging cases. And we've been going for over a couple of years now, and it's just been, wow, it really like a game changer in my own life for this interaction with like-minded professionals all over the country. And what we do is we meet in the evening. We have particular topics during the months. This month is all about dizziness and autonomic because our positive spin course is coming up. And we have people submit cases, and I just love our community so much. This week, we have an amazing OT who's a POTS specialist, POTS and EDS. I learned so much from her. She shared a case, and we got to have Jamie and Catherine mentor all of us through this. But before they went into that, I'm not going to share the case or anything like that. It's not my case to share. I learned a lot from listening to it, for sure. But I wanted to share the background that Jamie and Catherine described regarding these interactions of the vestibular and autonomic systems. I'm going to just take a moment because my dog wants to join us as usual whenever I hop on here live. And I see we've got some people here. So definitely if you've got a question, comment, I'd love to hear from you. You can put that in the chat. I'll check back and forth with the comments for that. But I do want to share my screen. These are actually the slides from our discussion last night, and I just have a couple of quick little pieces here. This combines all of my love of neuroanatomy and neuroscience and dizziness and vestibular and autonomic, like all in one. And what Catherine shared this slide last night and just did such a beautiful job. I will not do justice, but I wanted to share a couple of take homes here and also remind you, Catherine and Jamie are teaching the positive spin course. It's live tomorrow, Saturday, August 20th. So there is still time to join. You can join live or catch the recording and have the opportunity to really learn from two masters of this. But you know, I love my neurophysiology, neuroanatomy. So this particular image I love so much because it shows how intimately connected these systems are. So let me just orient you. We've got our limbic system here. We have those connections for hypothalamus to pituitary axis, right? So through here, stress axis activation. We've got our vestibular nuclei. Vestibular afferents are those things, that information coming in from the vestibular nerve from our inner ear. And then we've got this amazing nuclei. You might have heard me talk about it before because it's one of the cranial nerve nuclei, the biggest nerve, one of the biggest nerve nuclei, the nucleus solitaris, or the solitary nucleus. And what is so important here are all of the arrows, how intimately connected the vestibular system is to the autonomic nervous system through this solitary nucleus, how that is interconnected to the limbic system. If you've heard Catherine talk before, she loves this parabrachial nucleus, but not only does this solitary nucleus, which is one of the nucleus of the vagus nerve, interact, connect, talk to, back and forth with the limbic system through the parabrachial nucleus, it goes the other way too. So the limbic system is directly connected into our autonomic nervous system. Our vestibular nuclei directly connecting into the limbic system. And then we can appreciate through the HPA axis, or the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, that these are also connected with stress axis. That's very hard to say, activation. So what Catherine explained here is that this solitary nucleus is really this first relay station for many of the vagal afferents, so the sensory information coming in from the body, from the vagus nerve. And when I say body, I was like pointing to my stomach, because a lot of that is coming from our internal organs, our baroreceptors, all of those things. This is a very important hub for the vestibulovagal interactions. Now, Catherine had me at solitary nucleus for sure. As soon as she talked about it, I was like, oh my gosh, I love the solitary nucleus. It's, when we've done it in dissection in neuroanatomy, it's just a really like cool little nucleus. But it's an important hub. I think that's so interesting. This is why folks that maybe have a brainstem stroke, or hematoma, or brain injury that affects some of these brainstem structures, this can all go awry. And then the second point here, that those vestibular nuclei connections to the parabrachial nucleus are another pathway, so another input, another influence on the HPA axis. So when people find that they are feeling anxious when they're dizzy, it's not, I want to say this right. It's not just that they're feeling anxious or that they're an anxious person. It can be that vestibular nuclei is directly influencing that system that would produce an increased heart rate and sweating and nausea, all of those things that would go along with stress axis activation. So I think sometimes I hear from clients and other folks where they're just like, well, my doctor was just like, you seem very anxious. Are you anxious? Go to psychology. And it's like, well, yes, particularly after you've had longstanding dizziness, it could be very anxiety producing, but also it could be a direct effect from a vestibular insult. So I think that's really important. The last piece that I really, really loved here, and I'm going to grab this diagram, was we talk a lot about the otoliths, and Jamie talked about this particular idea and diagram as well, is like even beyond the otoliths. And she was like super, super excited. I love Jamie and Catherine so much, and how deep they dive into this material. But we've heard of people getting vertigo upon standing. And we kind of wonder sometimes, well, is it really vertigo? Are they lightheaded? What is it? But Jamie talked about orthostatic vertigo, which could result when there is actually decreased perfusion pressure. So perfusion through blood vessels to the cerebellum or the inner ear. So there's an asymmetry. And in the vestibular system, anything asymmetrical, boom, you start to feel dizzy. And this can produce that false sense of rotation. So if you have decreased perfusion in one side, it's actually going to feel like you are spinning. And this hypoperfusion causes this asymmetrical excitation in the vestibular system, including the canals. So that's where you get that vertigo, right? Not just odorless. And it can cause floccular disinhibition. I love the floccular nodular lobe, a key connection in our nervous systems for the vestibular system and the cerebellum. So disinhibition of the flocculus can occur. And so this is one of those interconnected pieces of the vestibular system and the autonomic nervous system, because the autonomic nervous system drives hemodynamics, drives our blood pressure and blood flow with changes to position. So this is part of the interaction actually of the otoliths and the canals, because the otoliths are stimulated when we change position in respect to gravity. And then this hypoperfusion can lead to asymmetry and then canal activation that can cause vertigo. So very interesting. Now, that is a lot of neuroanatomy, I know, a lot of the physiology part of it, but why is this important? I think number one, it helps us really understand and dive deeper with the folks that we are seeing here. I'll stop sharing my screen here. With the people that we're seeing when they're experiencing vertigo, when they're experiencing feeling off balance, we may want to look at some of these hemodynamic responses that are mediated by the autonomic nervous system. I know I say this over and over again, but we've got to look at the autonomic nervous system and look at it more than just sitting and standing blood pressure. That should be the minimum though. So if you're not already doing that with every single patient, you absolutely should. But doing things like the active stand test that looks at heart rate and blood pressure changes over time. Doing it by looking at heart rate variability. We talk about this a lot. We do it with the Leaf heart rate monitor and the Leaf app. Personally, that's what we do. So looking at that, particularly if a person is dizzy, we should be looking at that every single time and looking at those interactions between the systems because they're so intimately connected. And this is one of the big reasons why we really advocate for a full team approach, so that you're not just looking at vestibular system on its own and you're not looking at the autonomic or the neck on its own or the lifestyle on its own, but all those pieces together because they intimately interact in the nervous system. So I think all of those professionals should intimately interact. We should be interacting between, we've been talking about concussion this week. So physical therapy, occupational therapy, yoga therapy, psychology, neurooptometry, all of those pieces should be, people should be working really closely together to look at the system-wide issues for a person. So it's why we advocate for integrated care. And this is what we're doing the most of at Re+active. So if you are a person looking for that team approach, you can apply online, reactivept.com/integrated programs, or just go to reactivept.com. You'll see a big apply now button there. And if you're, I know I'm speaking mostly to my fellow healthcare providers here. If you are looking to grow in this area, we are very soon opening our doors to our Brain Bites community. I know I've had a lot of people reach out. I'm telling people, get on the wait list, go to reactiveeducation.com/brainbites, get on our wait list. We'll open early for you. There's a special discount for you. You really don't want to miss that. will be opening up next month. It's coming very soon. And we just want to expand access to care for those with the most complex conditions and access to mentoring and support for therapists. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you all tomorrow in our Positive Spin course. There's still room. You can join us live or catch the recording. That's at reactiveeducation.com/PS2. I hope to see you there. That's where I'll be all day tomorrow. I cannot wait. And I hope you have a great weekend.